everybody, and welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy, a weekly video game news podcast with your hosts Lex
and Dan. We did that differently. Oh my god.
Oh, you're right. We did do that a little differently.
Threw me off.
So we broadcast live Fridays 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on www.chipbit.net, also twitch.tv/DCTF podcast.
We're broadcasting a little early tonight. If you're checking us out live right now, you will notice that we were broadcasting a little early tonight. And that is in part because we have a guest. Say hello, guest.
Oh, hi. This is Kevin James. I'm a guest on...
Not that Kevin James.
No. The one and only. Yeah. I guess I'm a guest on Don't Copy That Floppy. Should I introduce myself further? I don't...
Tell us about yourself.
I make internet videos with my friends Ryan and Neil, which is probably the thing I'm most prolific for. And I guess you call me a filmmaker, and I'm definitely a gaming enthusiast. So
good enough for us, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. So
he passes the test.
We have Kevin James on for a very specific reason this week. But before we get into that, I just want to give a quick, or have Dan give a quick rundown of the stories we're going to be talking about tonight.
I will do that. First thing we have is a story about a Netflix-like service that Microsoft is now doing for video games called the Xbox Game Pass. So we're going to discuss that a bit. We're going to talk about Nintendo. We're going to talk specifically about the ARMS test that they ran last weekend, as well as their upcoming online service for the Nintendo Switch. We have a follow-up on a story we reported on a while ago about fixing your own video game consoles and the legality therein. And there has now been a Supreme Court ruling relevant to that problem, which is very interesting. And from then on, it's just announcements of games and updates to games. We have some Overwatch stuff, some Monster Hunter news, information potentially. It's a rumor, but it's somewhat reputable about Marvel vs. Capcom, the upcoming new one. Some Life is Strange news, news about Middle-earth Shadow of War. Then we will round out the show by looking at games that have just come out or are coming out in the next week or so. We have a little bit more to talk about at the end there because we did not manage to broadcast last week. We ran into difficulties.
I was at a formal dinner, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Lex was trapped at a formal dinner that he did not know he was going to.
For those of you following along at home, it is Friday, June 2nd. Check your calendars. So before we get into our stories proper, I just wanted to talk a little bit about why Kevin is here. So as he was saying, he is a filmmaker. I think in the past I have put out on our social media links to stuff that he's done. Specifically, there's a really, really great video he did called Computer Fighters, which I don't know if I got you to watch, Dan, but it's so good. There's
I don't think you did, because I feel like I'd remember it.
I still can't believe it's the only thing out there called Computer Fighters. Like, I'm in disbelief when we came up.
You know what?
When we came up with the title, when we came up with the title, I was Googling and Facebooking like this. There has to have been some old Master System game or something, some Mortal Kombat clone, and we lucked out. It was the only thing called Computer Fighters.
Thank God, because what a title!
Yeah.
But he is working on a new project that Kevin, you should just talk about it. I'm not going to do it justice.
Yeah,
that's fine. It's fine. No, it's been kind of just rattling around my brain the last 2 years. So basically, I'm directing a feature-length documentary called Not For Resale, and it probably sounds pretentious at first, but it's about video games. It's about mom-and-pop video game stores across the U.S. and Canada as well, and the subtext of the story is, we're experiencing the analog to digital, the virtual transition of video game sales. Basically, video game stores are kind of going the way of the dodo, right. Akin to how video stores, evaporated, and record stores sort of almost went extinct, and the enthusiasts are sort of keeping the vinyl collector stores alive, but so we went out and we drove across the country back in 2016, and we went to a dozen stores. We went to the Library of Congress. We went to a few universities, the camera crew, and we just interviewed these store owners and employees at these local mom and pop stores. Some of them have been around for decades, like Digital Press in New Jersey, Game Zone in Salem, Massachusetts. Like, we went out to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to this place called Thrill House Games. Just all these really cool games. It's an awesome store.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah.
That's so good.
I really wish I bought a T-shirt from those guys. Their logo is fantastic. But basically, he said that's the guy who owns the place. A guy named James said that's the number one request they get was, "Do you guys have Bone Storm?" But we went out and talked to all of them about what it's like living through the transition. A lot of people. More and more people every year are buying things digitally. And there's nothing wrong with that. The film isn't villainizing that. We're just sort of observing what parts of the country are adopting digital distribution faster than others, what factors into that. We went to a place out in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee called Control Freak Video Games. Awesome store. And out there, the maximum internet speed is like 15 megs down. There are signs all over the place that are proud of this, 15 megabytes per second. And the guy that runs the store, a guy named Seth, tells me, people will come in, they'll buy the new Tomb Raider, and they'll bring their Xbox One in with them because I have a T1 connection here. And people will hook up their Xbox and go download the patches. Like, they'll go out and get lunch while they're downloading the patches via an Ethernet cable in his store. It's like a service he provides for free.
Well, that's great.
Because imagine 15 megs down. Imagine download. Remember when the Master Chief Collection came out?
There was like a 22 gigabyte patch or whatever.
I was going to mention that, actually.
It was like 40? Huge. It was huge. It was like or whenever or when Doom came out. Doom, excellent game, but like the patches were huge. So like there's we went to the Library of Congress to talk to them about how they're going to archive digitally distributed games that only come out. Like, where's Pokemon Go going to be in a museum 20 years from now? How are you going to access it? We're talking to Limited Run Games in North Carolina. They're the guys that take games that were only available through virtual marketplaces like Steam, PSN. And what's the Nintendo one called now? I'm so out of touch.
I don't actually think they've said a specific name.
The eShop still?
I guess it's just the Nintendo eShop.
Yeah, because it exists on the Wii U right now, but they haven't launched it on the Switch yet.
The like online service for the Switch is still named.
Yeah, and but when a game comes out and does well there, like say Rocket League, there is a physical version of Rocket League you can buy now on Blu-ray, but it wasn't there for months. We're actually we're in talks. Psyonix has agreed to have us come out there and talk with them about why they decided to put out a Blu-ray version of their game. And that's basically the idea of the film, is examining our relationship with with physical goods and how important it is to a certain generation, but how going forward it's becoming less and less a thing. And how most kids don't care about getting Minecraft on a 3DS cart when they can just download it instantaneously to their iPad, right?
Right.
So that's basically the elongated elevator pitch, I guess you'd say.
Well, sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, it's really cool. I've watched the trailer stuff, and the clips you put out have been really great. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So should we get right into the news?
Yeah, let's get into the news.
Alrighty. Let's talk about Microsoft. Let's talk about Microsoft and their Netflix-like subscription service, Xbox Game Pass.
Xbox Game
Pass. As of yesterday, June 1st, it is live. The concept here is a Netflix for video games, which we've seen. Sony already did something like this with their PSN service. I believe if you're a PS Plus member, there were various games you could stream.
There's Sony service. There's PlayStation Plus, which is you get 2 games per platform every month. So if you have PS Plus and you have a PlayStation 4, a PS3, and a Vita, you can get 6 games that month.
Right.
And you get to keep them in perpetuity as long as you're paying for your subscription. They don't disappear like on Netflix when when some sort of loyalty or royalty package goes up. And then there's PlayStation Now, which is their streaming service. Yeah, which is like instantaneous access to games on your PS4. But I think they only offer PS3 titles through it so far.
Yeah, it's a library of backwards compatible games. Or, I guess not backwards compatible.
It's a shortcut to give you a portal, basically. Yeah.
Now, with Xbox Game Pass, you're not streaming the games, you are downloading them directly to your console, and while you're paying for your Xbox Game Pass, which is like $10 a month, you effectively own these games until such point where they do the thing that Netflix does that Kevin mentioned earlier, where a game would cycle out, and then you don't have access to it anymore. Or what you can do is, if you have a game downloaded through Game Pass, you can choose to buy it and just, own it in perpetuity. And if you do that, you get 20% off, I think, the game. And then you get some sort of discount on its DLC as well. I think it's like 10% off its DLC.
And it should also be noted that this includes Xbox One games. It is not just 360 and older titles.
I actually have a list in front of me. There's about 100. Yes, on this article, sorry. There's a little over 100 or 130 or something, including such things as a bunch of the Lego games like Lego Batman. Some older things like Metal Slug are on here. And then, sports games, NBA, 2K16. We got most of the Soul Calibur games. We got...
Is it possible to get Metal Slug on every single platform?
It should be, because
I think they just put out some weird collection. There's like a PlayStation 2 collection of those games that just got put up on PlayStation 4. So you can download Metal Slug emulated on PS2, emulated on PS4 right now. So
that sounds... I wonder if you can play it without slowdown.
I wonder, because if the PS4 is the PS4 is definitely a beast compared to the PS2, but if they're emulating the clock speed cycles and stuff, who's to say? I played through Vice City on my PS4 a couple months ago, and once or twice I definitely had moments like, why is this not running at a locked 30? Yeah, why is it? And apparently I looked it up, and that's like the science behind it, I guess, is they're like, even though this thing could do circles around it, you can't run it, what's the word? Without a restrictor plate of sorts, because it would suddenly run the game at like 8 times. It would fall apart. Yeah.
Yeah, there's problems with that actually. With Vanquish, a game just came out on the PC that was a console title.
Yeah.
It's a high-speed action game by Platinum Games. They just released it on PC like 2 weeks ago, and it had a bug on the PC initially because you could run it with an unlocked frame rate. Which people were doing because now they can, with the PC power we have now, you can run that game super fast at a really high, steady frame rate. But it was hitting the point where people had such good computers that the frame rate was hitting absurd levels, and it was causing a glitch in the game in the way it registers hits on yourself and on enemies, so that players were getting killed in single shots. Because it was counting multiple shots because of the way the frames were, of how many frames were happening per second. Yeah. And they fixed the bug quickly, but there was this whole period where it just screwed up the entire game.
That's funny.
Because of the way it was coded to deal damage to you.
Yeah.
No, one of the things I actually really love doing with some of my emulators for older systems is if they have a thing to mess around with the frame rate, I'll just let me just bump it up as high as I can go. Let's see how fast I can play this game.
1400 frames per second?
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be great.
See what happens.
But anyway,
so if you want to stream play Metal Slug on your Xbox, I guess you're not streaming it.
You're downloading it. You have it.
You can go do that.
You can go do that. This is something that got released last week for people who had what is it called? Xbox Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Xbox Live Gold.
And and now it's available to everyone. So I think this is assuming that the number of titles on this grows, which I don't see why it wouldn't. Yeah. I actually think this is kind of like an awesome idea for a service, an awesome service, considering the amount you're getting for your money.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I've heard the phrase Netflix of video games uttered for about 6-7 years.
Absolutely.
Like PS Plus was sort of an introduction to the idea. Then PlayStation Now hit, and while the technology's it's really impressive. I played a few games on it. I played like Sonic Generations and MotorStorm Apocalypse, and I thought it was amazing. I just I don't typically, I don't have a predictable amount of free time every week to play games. Right. So paying like a fee or like renting a game for a certain amount of time, I can't guarantee that window is going to be. I feel like I could end up wasting money. Whereas if I just buy the game, I can play it whenever I have free time. But like it's good to see that between this and what they're about to do on the Switch, that companies are still trying to figure it out. Like there's an aggression being taken towards it. Like people haven't given up on it.
Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox right now, said specifically that he thinks that this kind of service could lead to a shift in how games are being developed as well, specifically citing the episodic game model that we've been seeing sometimes, like with Telltale games and things like that, and like the Hitman game that came out recently. That this kind of service is kind of ideal for that type of game as well, because then you can develop a game in chunks and release it on this subscription service, and people can get access to it just as it comes out.
Yeah, that's easier for smaller studios.
Absolutely.
Who can't necessarily they can't pay their people for like a 2 or 3 year dev cycle.
Yeah. It allows for more flexibility with how you're funding your whole dev team and your development process, which is nice. Which is interesting, actually, in the sense we look at so many games nowadays, and it's usually you're either looking at the AAA games, the big, huge releases with tons of money and tons of manpower behind them that are developed on like a 1 or 2 or 3 year cycle, depending on how the company wants to do it. And it's usually that versus what is practically or literally indie games developed by very small teams for a very small amount of money, typically over a fairly long period of time. So perhaps something like this, if we move towards that episodic model as well, would lead to a whole like more stuff kind of in between.
Well, it's like what Cliffy B was talking about in that article we were talking about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where there needs to be a tier between between AAA and indie game.
And not talking about like Telltale games, but I feel like Telltale's the example because they do these episodic games and they've been doing them for a very long time now. But I think it's more important to look from that to the Hitman game and something of that ilk, because that shows that you can do this with any genre.
Yeah.
This doesn't just have to be story-based, like RPG, quote-unquote, experiences like Telltale.
Sure.
It can be action games. It can be stealth games. It can be literally any genre. You can do platformers this way if you wanted to. Like, people. I feel
like the mid-tier thing, whenever it comes up, like it's a shame. I feel like we saw the mid-tier kind of dry up and almost disappear entirely towards the end of the previous generation of consoles. Like I remember in 1 year, I was just talking to somebody about this. Sony published, like, I forget the exact number. I want to say it was like 7 or 8 of these like respectable but like mid-tier games. Like it was like Little Big Planet karting, Starhawk, Twisted Metal 2012, right? Like all these games, and like none of them took off. Like none of them, like I know they most of them made their money back. Like Twisted Metal, I remember hearing like, oh, it sold like 2 million. Which you know that's good. It was profitable. PlayStation All Stars was also in that too. Like that was another game. Like they put a respectable amount of money into it, but they were not like Breath of the Wild or Horizon or something. Like it was just like, here you go, here's a couple million, and like people just passed on them. There's this weird valley now in terms of the scale of video games that developers can't touch. Like those were like the best things about playing on the PlayStation 2 days, was just you just got swamped with options. There were so many games coming out.
Those options were awful.
But
tons of those games are garbage, but you still, within that garbage, there was just so much that there was a greater proportion of games worth playing at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a variety. Your taste became a bigger factor. Now it seems like everybody wants to back the winner. Nobody wants to be into the game that isn't the absolute like best thing on the market. But like back in the day, I remember like trying to convince my friends to hang out and play like Downhill Domination or Ghost Hunter, like stuff like that. Like these games that weren't exactly like the Grand Theft Auto 3s of their day.
Exactly.
But it was like, I knew people out there that preferred The Getaway, the London Guy Ritchie inspired Grand Theft Auto clone on PS2, and like that stuff doesn't really happen anymore at that scale because
I hate to bring in like the very flawed 1 to 10 review scale for games, but I feel like people who play games and have followed game reviews will understand what I mean when I say we need more games these days that are like solid 7s.
Well, it's this year in particular, we've had like some amazing stuff. Like the last 2 years have been really good.
Absolutely.
And I haven't got a chance to play nearly as much as I want, but there's it took 3 or 4 years to get to that point with these consoles.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, a year in, you would get a lot of gambles. I remember the launch of the PlayStation 2. I had, like Tekken Tag Tournament, Time Splitters, SSX, all these games that aren't considered like perfect. But at the time, I adored them because I had options. Right. I could play a million different racing games that were, respectable, unique racing games. There was a wide variety of them at the time.
The PS2 was really like the prime example for this kind of thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You use it so much, no matter what genre you were into.
Yeah, and we still have options, with indie development and such, but there's definitely a certain production tier that doesn't get made anymore. Right. There's like I'm going to say like the $5 to $10 million budgeted game doesn't really happen anymore.
It's significantly larger than what you're getting with like these indie Kickstarter titles that are being made on like $100,000.
Yeah,
it's significantly more than that, but it's still way less than the
AAA titles,
your $100 million Call of Duty games.
Yeah,
like could there be an indie developed game that was the 2017 equivalent of Devil May Cry? Could we get like a third person 3D action adventure combo driven game? Because most of them are 2D side scroller or like isometric, and that's great. That's fine. Like I played a lot of those games.
If it's nice pixel art, I have no problem with it.
I'm playing Axiom Verge right now on my Vita. Yeah. It's a great game.
You don't get indie devs trying to do 3D for the most part.
It's expensive.
And it's difficult to make it look good.
Yeah.
Like it takes more. I feel like it takes more effort to make a passable looking 3D game than a passable looking 2D game. And I say it that way because I don't want to say that most of these indie titles that are 2D are only passable looking. I think the majority of the big 2D indie titles we've gotten in recent years have been phenomenal looking.
Yeah, but you start to see the limitations of the budget tier, and it's not the limitations of creativity or talent. It's just I was listening to Mark Cerny talk recently. He's the guy that he was the engineer, the designer, I guess you'd say, behind the PlayStation 4. He worked on he directed Marble Madness back in 1982. He worked on Sonic 2, Final Fantasy 7, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, like incredible software engineer. But he said at the end of the day, you have to start looking at your projects. And when people say, we had 140 or 200 people working on Assassin's Creed, that might sound ridiculous to you. But if they have to make it in 18 months, right?
Yeah.
If you have to think of things in terms of man hours, right? And you think of if everybody's working 10 hours a day, which is a long day, for 18 months, how many hours of talent are you pouring into this thing? Because some projects just require a certain amount of that. Well, hundreds, millions of hours.
Asset creation for AAA titles takes a long time. Creating those hyper detailed models takes forever. Creating those textures to be shown in 1080p resolution, have them look sharp and good, takes a long time.
There's that phrase "time to triangle" that Mark Cerny used that I loved. He said that they tried to get that as short as possible on PlayStation 4, and that's why they brought in a bunch of game developers when they were designing the hardware, because they thought the PS3 was just awful with that kind of thing. They thought it was far too complicated to program for, and the PS4 is basically an x86 PC. It's not it's incredibly simple. Same thing with the Xbox One, very basic, and that helps alleviate, I guess, some of the costs and risks. When I go back, I buy a lot of retro games, and when I go to a store and I see a copy of Spider-Man 2 on PS2, I just wish stuff like that was still kicking out. Spider-Man 2 is a licensed game, but it wasn't it didn't have the same budget as, say, like God of War.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of licensed games that don't really have that big of a budget because they're put out to make a ton of money off the thing.
Like X-Men Legends or something.
Yeah. But there are plenty of older licensed games that are pretty good, like Spider-Man 2, for example. Yeah. So let's move on and talk a little bit about Nintendo's upcoming game, ARMS, which comes out really soon, actually.
It's all I've been hearing about all week is ARMS.
Because this last weekend they did the first global test punch, which was you could download a little demo version of the game onto your Nintendo Switch, and then for the weekend it was activated and you could just play as much as you wanted. Not all the characters were available. So your options were limited, game mode options were a bit limited, but there clearly is there are more robust options in the full game, including for matchmaking and stuff like that. But generally speaking, the reception to the game has been really positive, which I think is heartening to see, because when Nintendo first said, we're putting out the Switch in March, we're putting it out with Zelda as a launch title, don't worry, everyone was like, okay, great, we got Zelda as a launch title, that'll hold us over. But then it's like, so that'll hold us over till Mario, we think. And then they say Mario's coming out holidays 2017. It's a big span of time. And Breath of the Wild's phenomenal, but that's a big span of time to have people hold on to your console. And you got some indie titles coming out in between then, but they really needed another big first-party game to carry them, I think. And I'm happy to see that ARMS is shaping up to be more than... When they first revealed it, it looked like a budget title to me. Something about it struck me as like, this is going to be a small, little, goofy, fun, like, mini-game style thing. You play with your friends for a little bit, and then you're done, and you got your $20 to $40 worth of game. But no, this is a full game. This is a real fighting game.
It's a real fighting game.
It's got depth. It's got... all the characters are different. There's tons of different options.
Is it 4-player?
It can be 4-player.
That's crazy.
Be 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 4-way free-for-all, 3 people all fighting each other as well. There's 3-way free-for-alls. Mm-hmm. There's alternate game modes, like playing volleyball or basketball. And I know the basketball one, you use throws to dunk the other players in the hoop, and that's how you score. So it's got a lot of options. Every character has their own unique abilities, as well as having their own unique types of arms they can equip. And some characters have, like, entirely unique arms that only that character can use.
Mm-hmm. And you can mix and match the different kinds of arms as well.
So you can have 2 of the same kind, or you can have 2 different ones. And you could even have mirror matches as the same characters, where you're both using completely different arms options. The game, it looks good. It looks good.
And it looks like there's significant depth to it, and that's really what it needed.
And that's what everybody was worried about when they went into this test, is this game going to have actual skill-based gameplay and depth? Also, a lot of people were concerned, do I have to control it with the motion controls? The answer is no.
Good.
You can play it with a regular controller, like the Switch Pro controller, and it works great, apparently. And actually, the motion controls supposedly work really well, too. So for a fighting game, it's launching with a good roster of characters. They've already said there's going to be free updates coming after release as well, of new fighters and stages and all sorts of stuff. So they're clearly looking to support it. The even more important thing that we've gotten from this global test punch, though, is that the Nintendo Switch's online seems functional and stable.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that, because I took that as a given, but I really shouldn't have.
No, you shouldn't have, because the Wii and the Wii U did not have great online capability.
So does that make 2 fighting game franchises for Nintendo right now? First party, I mean. I feel like there's another game I'm forgetting about.
I think it's just because it's this
Super
Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
I don't think they have another first party fighter.
I'm totally I'm fabricating that. Yeah, it just is those 2.
This is nice too, because they for years, ever since Super Smash Bros. Melee came out, it's been lauded as like the best Smash Brothers game because it's the most skill-based and most competitive Smash Brothers game.
Yeah.
Super Smash Bros. Melee is the one they play at tournaments still.
Yeah.
Even after Brawl and the Wii U one came out. And it's just because Nintendo never wanted Smash Brothers to be a fighting game. They wanted it to be a party game.
Yeah.
And that's what they turned it back into with Brawl and Smash Wii U.
Easy to access, hard to master.
Exactly. Yeah. Easy to access, hard to master, chaotic, wacky, like just something you can jump into and have a lot of fun with your friends without worrying about who's winning.
It's the kind of game where like people really can't call you out on button mashing because that's kind of the name. That's kind of the name of the game.
Exactly. I think ARMS is perfect now because ARMS can now be, for all the people who are like who wanted Smash Brothers to be a real fighting game, quote unquote. ARMS can now be that game. ARMS can be their real fighting game.
Also, hey, a new idea.
Yeah, that too. Hey, a unique idea for a fighting game entirely.
Yeah.
Like
new IP gets it doesn't happen all that often, especially at a company like Nintendo. I know Nintendo will come up with they'll come out with new games that they're unique gameplay wise, but they're typically stamped with it's Mario's golf. It's it's definitely. Exactly. So like they should be applauded for launching a game like this early in the life cycle too.
I was surprised when Splatoon, when they did Splatoon just at all, because so much prior to that had just been them resting on their laurels in terms of the IPs they already had.
They decided to do. They did a multiplayer shooter.
Yeah,
it could have been Mushroom King shooter, and they didn't do. Yeah, and like there's something to be said like that. They probably had a long discussion about like, okay, well, we probably don't want Mario holding a gun, even though apparently he's going to in that new the Rabbids spin-off game that's coming out.
I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, sorry.
I take a hardline stance against Rabbids.
They're the minions before the minions.
That is 100% true. That's one of the truest things ever spoken.
I feel like is it DreamWorks who makes Minions? I feel like DreamWorks just looked at the Rabbids and said, "You know what's wrong with the Rabbids? They don't look enough like Homer Simpson's head." Like, and then there you go. That was the one problem, and now they're making like hundreds of billions of dollars.
Jesus Christ! When I was in Japan last year, I went to Universal Studios Japan, and they had a giant. Like a stage show that ran every couple hours in one of the big plazas that involved people in Minions mascot costumes.
Jeez,
that were horrific.
I went there last year as well. I went to Japan the first and only time I'll probably ever afford to be able to go around September.
Oh yeah. I've been. Where were you when you went?
I went along basically the whole length of the country.
Oh wow.
I started the northeast, got all the way down to like Arashiyama, Kyoto, and everything. I was going to go to Fuji, but there was some crazy rainstorm flood going on that prevented me from
getting to Mount Fuji can be tough.
It's like half a day, and if the weather's not good, you just wasted half a day on a train. And
absolutely.
The trains are cool though. Even the bullet trains are cool. Yeah,
great.
But then I spent like 2 weeks out there. I just wanted to go. It was cheaper than I expected.
Yeah, so it was for leisure, not business.
Totally for fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was really excited. I'll probably never have the money to go again, but. I mean, I got to go to the Tsukiji fish market and everything. You've been twice though?
I've been twice. Yep. In 2013, I was there for the entirety of October. I rented an apartment in Tokyo with one of my friends.
Yeah.
And we just spent the month there. That was a blast.
Dude, Airbnb makes it so cheap. It's so cheap to go to Japan once you get over there. Like, did you have a lot of Boss coffee?
I had so much Boss coffee. Oh my god.
Oh man, Boss coffee is the best.
Right outside the apartment door.
It's like a buck even, and you get like that little half can. It's the perfect amount of caffeine. You could have like 5 a day and not feel guilty.
And if it's summer, it's cold, and if it's fall or winter, it's hot. The machines change the temperature of the coffee for you.
It's amazing, and like the cans are like that really dense aluminum, like it feels like a battery in your hand. I don't know. I don't know. I really want to get back there. Yeah. It's just the only thing that prevents me is obviously the cost of flying. You know,
it's pricey, but it's super worth the trip. I think it's a wonderful little country.
You've got to go for at least 2 weeks though. Yeah. Like going for a month, I'm envious. Yeah.
The other time I went was last summer for my honeymoon with my wife. And we had a blast. We went from Tokyo down to Hiroshima and some cities in between.
Hiroshima is awesome.
Hiroshima is wonderful.
It's gorgeous.
If anybody is listening to this right now and says, Hiroshima isn't that the place that got bombed? Yes, it is. It's also now like one of the most beautiful cities in Japan.
If you go like 40 minutes south of it, there's tons of places to go hiking, lots of streams in the woods and stuff. Did you get to go to Nara?
Yes, I did my first time there. Yep, and went and saw the daibutsu and all the deer and all that stuff.
Oh my god, the male deer are. I mean, it's deer and doe, I guess, but all the males, they're. I wouldn't say they're hostile, but they like to remind you that they're present. They'll come right up to you and headbutt you, but they saw off their horns out there, their antlers, and so you just get like this real flat piece of bone hitting your butt, hitting your thigh every 10 seconds if you don't give them a cookie.
Yeah, they just want cookies, really.
And they're everywhere. And you might think, whoever's listening, that we're talking about going to like a zoo. No, they're literally everywhere in Nara. They're the citizens.
When I was first there, I actually went to this place both times, but the first time I went there, went to this island called Miyajima.
I've been there, yeah.
Yeah, Miyajima, it's great. And there's deer wandering around there, too.
They're great. And they're completely apathetic to your presence.
Yeah, they don't care. Unless you have food. The first thing that happened when I got to Miyajima, got off the ferry with my friend, is a woman was taking a picture of, I'm assuming her husband, at the front of the ferry station, and while she was doing so, a deer just walked up behind her and grabbed the map out of her back pocket and ate it. And she freaked out, and the deer was just like, be more careful with your map.
Yeah, they'll do that.
So, anyway, we're on this is not video games.
No, we gotta get back to
Sorry.
Japan.
Japan's cool.
It's super cool. Nintendo is in Japan.
That was the transition.
Amazing. So it's good to know that Nintendo has made a functional online service, seemingly. They have announced now, as of today, actually, that their online service in full, because when they announced the Switch, they said, hey, we're going to have an online service. It's free for the first 6 months. Then you got to pay. More information forthcoming.
Yeah.
They have now extended the window to it fully launching into 2018. So they've said, okay, it's not actually going live completely. Our subscription service is not going live until 2018. Which I think is nice. That means if you pick up ARMS, you got a whole half year playing it at least.
Yeah.
At no cost. And then it'll be $20 a year after that, which is super reasonably priced.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can actually put forth a stable internet service, hopefully on the level of what we already saw with the ARMS test punch, then that seems super worth it to me.
But to me, an internet platform for your console, the network end of it.
Yeah.
The fundamentals to me are a buddy list and a store.
Yes.
And I mean, the trophies and achievement points and such, those are cool too. But
they're nifty, but they're really not necessary.
I'm so surprised that there's no are they doing I should have done research on this. Are they doing some sort of friends list thing on the app on your phone?
We still don't know.
That's just it's decades, multiple decades antiquated at this point. And I know there's people out there oh, well, what about kids and stuff? You could just talk to your friends on Skype or Facebook. It's or you could talk to them on the Nintendo network. I have the PlayStation app on my phone, and I legitimately use that all the time. To set up sessions with friends. My buddy Justin and I love to play Uncharted 4 online, and we'll send messages that way because, if I see Justin's on his PlayStation 4 through the app,
right.
I know he's probably goofing off playing a video game.
Right.
And I'll say, hey, you could be on your console for another hour or so. We should play some co-op or whatever. And that's how we'll schedule it.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're making some steps forward. I like the Netflix-ish way they're going about doing the monthly games and everything, and the fact it's only $20 a year that's not bad at all.
No,
it means maintenance.
The eShop is already a really good online store for their games. Nobody's ever had a problem with the eShop, and now we just need them to not have friend codes, which they've said that they are not doing. But I'll believe it when I see it, and just have stable netcode and have maybe a decent built-in chat service. because they have yet to really enable chat through their online services particularly well either.
I forgot to send you the story about this because I found out about it late last night, but there was a story about the third-party company that had made the device for, like, the headset and attaching device for Splatoon's voice chat.
Okay.
And it's like a monster. It's horrible. Because you have you have the headphones and they plug into this thing that actually, to their credit, in terms of like the way they were marketing it, it kind of looks like a squid, which was fun. But your headphones plug into this thing, and then it has a plug that runs to your Switch, and then to your smartphone, and then like to somewhere else. And it's just all these like short cables that you have to have all your stuff like physically next to each other to have it all plugged in. It's horrible. It
sounds like
some of the worst design that I've seen.
No, thank you.
Just like I thought not being able to change my PlayStation Network name was bad. Like I thought that was like a problem. This is like, I mean, I feel like they're putting this functionality out there to quiet the hardcore that really wants the ability to chat with their friends. But it's also just difficult enough that little kids probably aren't going to have access to it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just expensive enough, or difficult enough to set up that the kind of customer they want to prevent from participating in audio chat won't get to.
Right.
You know? So that's one way to do it. Yeah. But I don't know. I just they need to get over this. The Switch, like, it came out this year.
Yeah. No, they've been taking baby steps. I feel like they've been doing nothing for ages, and now this year they have finally started taking baby steps.
Yeah.
And they need to keep that going. We need more baby steps.
Yep.
And maybe even some big grown-up steps at some point.
I bet you they beat Sony to the market with being able to change your handle, though. I mean, I know Microsoft's doing it, but I feel like Sony's going to be the last one to cross that line.
Yeah, they're pretty obstinate about stuff like that, I feel.
I heard something about the PS3 being the reason, like to support the PlayStation 3 on the network, as well as the PS4, they have to keep the name, the inability to rename your PSN handle or whatever. But apparently whenever they retire the PS3 and its ability to access PSN, then we will see that service. That might just be hearsay, though. I've heard that from a few sources, though.
It's possible. Or if I know. So, Lex, why don't you take us into this story?
Moving back over to the U.S., there was a really riveting Supreme Court case about, you guessed it, printer cartridges. Recently, that, you know, normally would be super boring and no one would talk about it, but the video game community has been talking about it quite a bit lately because it actually has ramifications for home console ownership and the things that we can do with our consoles. So basically, there was this case, it went to the Supreme Court. It was between this company called Lexmark and I forget the other company involved, like this other third-party company. And the idea was that Lexmark made these big printers for offices. And they had these, you know, giant ink cartridges in them that were, they were all like proprietary. So you could only buy them through Lexmark. And it would be like, you'd have your ink cartridge, you'd run out of ink, and then you had to go back to Lexmark to buy a new one. You couldn't buy it from anybody else because it wouldn't... They physically wouldn't fit in the printers. So a smaller other company decided, hey, why don't we offer a service where people can bring us their empty Lexmark printer cartridges and we will refill them? Or people can sell us those cartridges, we will then fill them and sell them to somebody else.
Right.
And then that company got its pantsuit off by Lexmark.
Unsurprisingly.
Yeah, because Lexmark was like, you're making money off of our stuff, you can't do that. And the case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decided, it's actually not cool for Lexmark to do that. People should be able to, like, once they've bought, you know, the printer and they've bought the cartridge, they should be able to do what they want with the printer or the cartridge.
They can refill those cartridges however they like.
Yeah.
But this has good, interesting ramifications on the story we talked about back in March about fixing your own video game console.
Because the Supreme Court ruling is super, super broad, so it just basically applies to, like, electronics.
Yeah.
Instead of just printers. If it was just printers, we wouldn't care.
Thanks, printers.
Thanks, printers.
So would...
Yeah, the precedent that sets is going to be huge. Like, that's going to come up with digital distribution in the future.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of talk these days about ownership versus licensing.
Yeah,
and that right there is kind of a line in the sand that it'll get brought up. It'll get brought up again in about 4 or 5 years, I bet.
Curious to see where it goes.
Yeah.
So there's this whole thing where with video game consoles, you sign a license agreement with them. And that basically says, hey, you can't open this console up to repair anything in it, because if you do, you void your warranty.
Right.
And it's no good. If you want to be repaired, you have to send it back to Sony, or you have to send it back to Microsoft, and they will repair it and then get it back to you. And what had been happening when we first reported on this story is that in several states, I have the list right here: Nebraska, New York, Minnesota, Wyoming, Tennessee, Kansas, and Massachusetts. Oh, and Illinois, but Massachusetts, it's us.
Hey.
Good for us. We're all trying to pass bills that said, hey, if there is a third party, like a mom and pop repair shop, they should be allowed to fix your electronic devices without voiding warranty.
Yeah, it falls into that right to repair conversation. Mm-hmm. I when I went across country to all those mom and pop stores, quite a few of them did repairs, like, whether it was like refluxing or fixing up, or like circuitry on the innards of a console. I'm a motor mouth. My mouth is all over the place right now. Whether it was fixing heat sinks or cleaning out a console, just basic pin fixes on old game consoles. That stuff falls into right to repair, right. Because when a manufacturer says, hey, you void warranty unless we take care of this, it gets a bit fuzzy, because you did pay money to own that thing. Yeah. And if the manufacturer debates that, then suddenly the exchange of money is called completely into question. Like, what was this exchange for? Am I actually getting this box, or am I just getting the license to use this box? What does that even mean? So... And who's to say we'll even have hardware being sold in 10 years with things like PS Now hitting? So.
And we have seen it already with digital software. I know, especially through Steam, there was a big hubbub.
About refunds and such. Yeah.
Refunds and also just the Steam terms of service basically saying that they reserve the right to rescind your game licenses if they see a reason to, which is kind of like, but I'm paying for the game, so shouldn't I own it? But no, technically Steam is just licensing it to you.
Yeah.
They are making more headway than other platforms, I think. Like, I feel like they're definitely more progressive than, Xbox Live Marketplace, Nintendo Solution, or the PlayStation Network Store.
And but it's so much more difficult when you're talking about a digital download of a game, whereas with consoles, when you're talking about a physical thing that you're holding.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so very... Everyone remembers... I mean, at least I remember vividly, E3 2013, I want to say, when, Microsoft came out and was trying to explain how the Xbox One's used games policy, and they completely dropped the ball on messaging with that thing. And Sony put out that 30-second video where they explained how to let another person borrow your game, and it was so funny. It was so good.
It was an ice burn.
If you haven't heard it or seen it, just look up how to borrow a PlayStation 4 game on YouTube. It's 30 seconds. It's hilarious.
Of the video game industry that year.
Yeah, it was wonderful. They were so on top of it. They had that video ready in under a day. Good on them. Good on them. Yeah.
This could be neat, depending on what kind of cases it becomes a precedent for in the future.
It's a good victory. It's definitely the kind of thing that people should be happy about and talk about, because contentment rarely breeds conversation. So people go quiet, and that perceived quietness. If people don't hear you talking about it, they might not think it was a victory. Yeah. People tend to only speak up when they're angry about something, and this is a good thing. So I'm glad people are talking about it.
Definitely.
Yeah, totally.
Let's get into we have a little bit of time left. So let's get into our news about video games.
No, what? We're going to talk about
we already talked about ARMS, I guess. But there's been a bunch of... Kevin, have you ever played Overwatch?
No, I actually haven't. That was like the one major, like that game came out in a sea of crazy good stuff last year, and that was the one I didn't play.
Yeah. I've been a pretty avid Overwatch player since it came out. I was really like against it. I was like, I'm not gonna play Overwatch. This game's stupid. I don't like it.
Another shooter.
It's dumb. I don't like it. I don't want it. And then my wife was like, I want to play Overwatch. I'm gonna get it. And I was like, okay, fine. And now I have played it way more than her. And then she told me afterwards, like, I just did that because I wanted you to get it because I knew you'd like it, but you wouldn't admit it to yourself because you're too stubborn. And she was like, oh. So, but she was 100% right because now I'm like wicked into it. But anyway, this last week was the week of Overwatch's 1-year anniversary. So they're currently running a 3-week event that is an anniversary event that includes all sorts of cool skins for some of the characters. Some of the best ones they've released so far, I think. Like one that makes Genji, the ninja character, look like a Power Ranger.
Yeah!
That's really cool. And as well as like some dance emotes for all the characters that are pretty interesting and well animated.
And all based off of real dances.
All based off real dances. Hanzo's traditional Japanese fisherman's dance.
Yep.
How charming. Reaper's dance, based off that jackass who stood in the corner and didn't dance.
Yeah.
As well, and in addition to all of this, lots of cool stuff from that event. They have also put up some new patch stuff on the test servers on PC, including a new map that is coming out soon that was teased a little before they announced it officially, and some people were looking into the teaser image and saying like, hey, maybe this is hinting at the next hero for the game, because it makes mention of a character who is in the game as well as another character who's like associated with him, who may or may not become relevant.
Okay.
But some people think, oh, maybe this is it's some character named Hammond, and some people think maybe that'll be our next character. I don't know, I'm not convinced of that. As well as some balance changes that are coming, including buffs for one of my main characters, Reaper. I love playing as Reaper. It's my secret shame. But I'm excited about that. So the game continues to be, basically the gist of this is, Overwatch is still really good. 1 year later, they just keep rolling out new stuff for it. The new event also came with new maps for the 3v3 and 1v1 modes.
Can you guys think of a game that's been, I mean, not that Overwatch, I mean, it hasn't been out long enough to really claim this fame, but can you guys think of games you've played before that had such great tales in terms of DLC? And I don't mean like Rock Band. I mean like something that from day one you maybe weren't expecting it to be as well supported as it eventually was.
That's a really good question.
Like the best example I can think of is Burnout Paradise. I thought Burnout Paradise, especially considering when it came out, like it was like a year into the PS3 and 360. That game, man, just every month there was like free cars, like new challenges, the motorcycle update, all that stuff.
I think most of the more recent Monster Hunter games have actually been really well supported following their release. Every month with all the ones on just like the 3DS even, they release huge free DLC packs every month of new quests, new like cosmetic stuff for the game, event quests that allow you to craft like special gear that's like from other games, like crossover gear, like Legend of Zelda stuff and Mario stuff. So I think Monster Hunter typically has really good support for like 9 to 10 months after release most of the time, consistently. But other than that, I can think of a lot of games with great DLC, but it's usually like, here's the one really good DLC pack that this game got. And it's really good, but they only got the one.
Only the one.
Like Bloodborne, for example, had an amazing DLC content pack. You think of anything, Lex?
No, I can't think of anything.
Usually nowadays when that stuff hits, it's so preordained that it feels almost like you should have gotten the goods when the game came out. Yeah, like, hey, how come I'm waiting on this DLC or that? But with a game like Overwatch, with it being multiplayer based, it's a good way of just giving the whole community a shot in the arm. And this is nothing that hasn't been said a million times before. Yeah. Like, this is just the standard thing multiplayer games do now.
Yeah.
But every time there's Overwatch DLC, you hear people just ranting and raving about it. They're so pumped to get a new thing to do in that game or experience.
There's it also they and I think it's partly because it's on PC and it's by Blizzard, who has, you know, they're a PC developer, or they were first and foremost at least. Overwatch gets patched and updated and tweaked constantly, compared to other multiplayer shooters that are out there. Like this game, they buffed a character who they basically said this character is in need of a buff because he's not being picked frequently, and in higher level play he's kind of lapsed out of the playing field. We want people to use him more, so we're going to buff him, and they did. And then within a week after that buff, they were like, all right, we did too much, we overdid it. So a week later, they released a patch that took away some of those buffs and made them more reasonable. And the fact that they so quickly were like, here's an update for this character to make them viable again, and then immediately said, okay, we totally went a little overboard, we're seeing the community's response, we're rolling it back right now and changing what we did. They're so on top of not only updating the game and providing content, but updating the game and providing content updating the game in ways and providing content that the player base actually wants. They're listening to everybody who plays the game.
Yeah, I
specifically.
think listening, communicating are two things that cannot be understated, especially when it comes to shooters or really any video game.
Yeah.
Because we saw the whole fiasco that happened with No Man's Sky, and a lot of the problems there were really perpetuated by lack of communication.
People not really paying attention.
I think what happens is developers get a little lucky. As long as they can sort of premeditate what the audience is going to want, and they can kind of have it half in the oven, like baking before the game comes out, they can surprise you. Because if you ask for, say, like, oh, I want split screen multiplayer or split screen co-op in this game, if the developer didn't have that in mind already, you're probably never going to get that post launch, because that's such a huge undertaking. Right. But if they were already planning for that functionality to get rolled out 6 or 8 months in, they probably already have it working in the back end.
Yeah.
And they can surprise you with it. But I feel like with No Man's Sky, the game, the possibility seemed so outrageous. And when it came out and it was like half at best what people were expecting, you know, they couldn't be like, oh yeah, next week we're going to put this out. And they were a small studio too, and like the relationship between them and their publisher was funny. But it's tough. You know, you kind of have to have that stuff ready to go, or like in a fighting game, you can't just throw out a completely unique character. And especially, I mean, like, you have to play test, you have to balance it, but also things like with the new Injustice game, right? They couldn't just make a new character today. They couldn't be like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we put, like, you know, Metallo in the game? Because they'd have to go back in with every voice actor and record new interactions and stuff. Like, so that stuff has to be premeditated to a point. Yeah. And the way they have to conceal that premeditation out of fear that people will freak out and be like, hey, I deserve that DLC day one for free in the game. It's a hard line to walk, you know, but they want to make games as a service. They want to make games last longer, because why make a new game every 2 years and you can make a new platform every 10,
exactly.
You know, and you're seeing that with Overwatch. When it works, it's great. Yeah.
It's a platform that they can just constantly add to, and it's based on this first year. It's working really well, and it's a fun game to boot. Like, they did a very good job with it.
So we have. So Dan, do you want to just blitz through?
Yeah, we're gonna have to blitz through these last stories. Hey, do you like Monster Hunter? I really like Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is coming to the Nintendo Switch.
I'm pretty lukewarm on Monster Hunter, but okay.
Monster Hunter Double Cross called that title.
You did?
I'm going to remind everybody of that every time this comes up.
It's true.
Because I called that title so hard.
I don't remember what episode it was on, but you definitely did.
It was when they announced Cross. They announced Monster Hunter Cross, because they announced Monster Hunter X, and then in the trailer in Japan, they were like, Monster Hunter Cross. And I was like, okay, so it's Cross. You know what that means? When they release the updated version, it's going to be called Double Cross. And people thought I was quite the fool.
Who's laughing now?
Who's laughing now?
I feel like this is the best possible situation for this franchise. I remember when the Vita came out, I thought for sure we were going to see like some sort of cross-buy game, and the Vita sold what it did, which is like 10, 15 million units, like not enough for a game like Monster Hunter. And then Nintendo was never going to entertain cross-buy. Like they when Smash Brothers got announced on the Wii U and the 3DS, it was like, you're going to spend $100. We're getting $100 out of you. They knew they had to do. They knew that you would pay that. But with the Switch, man, like you're going to start to see these games that were just born to be brought portable and then brought home to the living room. I really wish Persona 5 was on a portable machine, because I loved playing Golden on Vita. That was the way to play that game, man.
Spectacular! It was so good. And I know I've seen some people say that they remote played Persona 5 on their Vita.
Yeah.
You had to have a really good connection and basically just sit next to your TV anyway.
Yeah, like if you have like, it's kind of like the Wii U perk of like, if someone's watching the TV, I can play a game on the tablet. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like that's basically what remote play becomes. Like I have used remote play, when I'm like cross country and stuff, or like working out of a hotel. It is cool, but it's not reliable. And it's no fault of Sony's. It's just the nature of the internet, man.
And play for Double Cross is going to be great because it's coming out on the DS anyway, and it's coming out on the Switch now too. And we're going to be getting you can play it. People on the DS can play with people on the Switch.
That's awesome.
The DS version of if you have the DS version of Cross, you can import your Cross save data from your DS onto your Switch copy of Double Cross.
Platform agnostic. That's awesome.
It's great. It's super good. They already showed you have every single permutation you can come up with for the interplay of these two versions is good. Like you're good. You're good to go. The only problem right now is that they haven't said if it's coming out in America yet.
But we know that the Switch is not region locked.
Yes. So if you wanted to import it, you could just import it.
Yeah.
It's coming out in August, I believe, is the date for Double Cross right now. We have a voter story that we can talk about really fast. Somebody on PC is modding Dark Souls with, I don't know the proper way to describe this. They're modding a, Shovel Knight story content thing into Dark Souls? Where you play through Dark Souls as Shovel Knight, and they are changing whole mechanics and music and everything. It's crazy. There's a video of it that you can watch. I'm playing it on the stream right now, where they replaced the model for one of the spear weapons with a shovel, and it's wacky. It looks really cool, but it's currently in development. And if you're looking for an excuse to play through Dark Souls again, this might be just the thing.
Cool.
It'd be Shovel Knight. The Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite full roster has leaked. So this is a rumor. This roster was leaked by NeoGAF forum member Rice, who has a good track record when it comes to character leaks for the game so far. He's already predicted some of the other ones. We're looking at 28 characters at launch, including, I believe, the first 13 here are Capcom. We've got Arthur from Ghouls and Ghosts, Chris Redfield from Resident Evil, Chun-Li from Street Fighter, Dante from Devil May Cry, Firebrand from Demon's Crest, Jeddah from Darkstalkers, Monster Hunter from Monster Hunter.
the Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter. Morgan from Darkstalkers, Nemesis from Resident Evil, Ryu from Street Fighter, Spencer from Bionic Commando, Strider Hiryu from Strider, and Mega Man X from Mega Man, since he was so rudely excluded from Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
So this is rumored, right?
This is rumored.
Nemesis? Really?
He was in 3, I believe.
Well, he's in Resident Evil 3. I'm a huge Resident Evil 2 and 3 fan.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Oh, okay, my bad. But that's a good poll, I guess.
Yeah.
It's cool. I love Nemesis. It just seems crazy.
Yeah.
And there's no one from Resident Evil 7 you would pull, character-wise.
No. I mean, you could bring Jack Baker into it. That might be interesting.
I love Resident Evil 7.
Resident Evil 7 is really cool.
I got to play the whole thing in VR. I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah. But Marvel's Capcom.
For the Marvel side, we've got Ant-Man, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, Gamora, Hawkeye, Hulk, Iron Man, Nova, Rocket/Groot, whatever that means, Spider-Man, Thanos, Thor, and Ultron. So there was a rumor right when this game was announced that they were going to be, Marvel was having them focus, they wanted this game to be more relevant to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, and this character
so this,
pretty much...
Forgive me, is Spider-Man in there?
Spider-Man is in there, yes.
Okay.
They would not dare exclude Spider-Man from Marvel vs. Capcom. There's no way.
They wouldn't dare.
He's been a staple since like the
it's a bummer because I'm a big X-Men guy, and there are quite a few X-Men that would be awesome in a fighting game.
Yeah. It's weird to not have Wolverine because he has also been a staple of Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah, like
Magneto, too.
Yeah.
Magneto, Cyclops, Cyclops' animations in like the 2D games they stand out, man. Those are like some of the most memorable animations of those games by my measure.
Kinetic energy blasts and everything looks super good. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The weird. I think the weird one here, and I think I feel like it's because they needed another female character, is that we get Gamora from Guardians of the Galaxy seemingly instead of Star-Lord.
Oh yeah, because we have Rocket and Groot, but we don't have Star-Lord.
No Star-Lord.
But if they had X-Men, they could have put Jean Grey in there. They would have had plenty of female characters.
Or Storm.
Yeah, or Storm too.
Or Rogue.
Yeah.
Or Kitty Pryde. Or Mystique. Or half the X-Men.
Messed up.
Because as of right now, it's just Gamora and Captain Marvel are the only two female characters from the Marvel side.
Yeah.
Well, they could have put Black Widow in there. Why? Because she's part of the movies.
Yeah.
So this is this rumor, like what's like the temperature on it? How real do you think this is?
I feel like this is reasonable enough. So there's one character not included here. There's a mystery character on the Capcom side that is not in this leak because the guy said there's 28 characters. But I feel like this seems pretty legit.
28.
This guy has this NeoGAF forum guy has predicted character announcements for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite since it was announced. He's been putting out like, hey, this is another character they're going to announce, and then they announce them.
Yeah.
So as of right now, I feel like this is a pretty reliable rumor, and especially considering Marvel vs. Capcom 3 had a leak very similar to this a fair bit before it released that ended up being 100% true. So, take it with a grain of salt, but this is probably it. For better or worse.
So,
you think we should probably wrap it up, huh?
Yeah, we were like way over time.
Yeah. So, Middle-earth Shadow of War got delayed by 2 months.
Ooh.
Just so you know, almost 2 months.
That would have been a huge hit in August. That would have been a big... I mean, whatever. They do what they got to do. Like, Warner Brothers, their open world stuff has been pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when it was first announced, because I was like, whoa, August, that's really soon.
Yeah, but October 10th now is the release. Video games that just released. What do we got?
It's the beginning of June.
We got... Vanquish on the PC came out a little over a week ago. Guilty Gear Exard Rev 2. No, that game's good. Rhyme, the indie game that's been in development for a while. Ultra Street Fighter 2 on the Nintendo Switch, which I have heard mixed things about. Unfortunately. Walking Dead Season 3 Episode 5 came out on the 30th.
Oh my gosh, Star Trek Bridge Crew came out
for all the VR.
For VR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The VR game that you need like 5 other people in VR headsets to play.
Tekken 7 came out today. That's a big release.
Yeah.
For fighting. It's all these fighting games coming out. Yeah. It's fighting games.
I want to get Tekken so bad. It looks so good. And Justice 2 looks great too.
Yeah,
There's just not enough hours in the day or money in my bank account.
Yep. Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale Episode 2 is coming out on the 6th. And that's about it.
Oh, you forgot Farming Simulator 18.
Oh my god.
Coming out for the Vita.
And the 3DS. Come on, man.
Never a more powerful combination than Farming Simulator 18 and the Vita.
At least tell people that it's coming out on a console they own. That's the Vita.
Anyway. So, because we are way over time, I think it's just about time for us to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So we have been Don't Copy That Floppy with your hosts Lex and Dan and our special guest Kevin James. Not that Kevin James.
Not that
The one and only.
Thanks for being on the show, Kevin. It was a pleasure.
Hey, don't mention, thanks for letting me talk about the movie. And I realized I should have said that people can find out anything they want to find out about the movie at GameStoreDoc.com.
Okay. Doc as in DOC?
Yeah, GameStoreDoc.com. That's like, I should have mentioned that at the front, but you know.
Hey, well, you got it in there, so that's good.
Yep.
If you want to find us on any social media or anything, just search Don't Copy That Floppy Podcast or DCTF Pod. We're on pretty much everything. And we try and post semi-regularly to those things. Also, if you want to support the show, there are two great ways to do that. One of them is you can leave an iTunes rating and review. We would greatly appreciate that. Or you can support us via our Patreon page. We are Don't Copy That Floppy on Patreon, and you can get access to monthly bonus content. You can get the ability to vote on stories that we put in every week, like that Shovel Souls story that we did earlier, and all sorts of stuff like that.
Please give us $50. I want to record a sexy voicemail message so bad.
Our reward tier for when we were like, what should we put as the $50 reward tier? I don't know. And Dan was like, sexy voicemail. That's what it should be.
I want to do it. Please.
But yeah, that's it. So thanks for listening, and until
Thank you very
next
much.
time, remember, don't copy that.